Today's mini webcast will focus on the rise of cybercrime and explain why identity is now widely seen by threat actors as your weakest link, as they no longer need to break into your environment, they simply steal credentials and log in. If we examine the most recent cyber report from National Cybersecurity Centre, you'll see that the trend is clear. Cybercrime is on the increase. If you look at some of those stats, you'll notice there was 400 plus incidents reported last year, which all required direct assistance from the National Cybersecurity Centre. It's an amazing and an alarming 130% increase year on year. And in recent years, we've seen the news stories that many household names have experienced cyber breaches due to an identity or cyber-based incident, because threat actors basically obtained identity of an employee. And once that identity was stolen, as expected, the solutions that they had heavily invested in done exactly what they were designed to do. They authorized the individual and granted them access to their mission critical data center. And in some cases, costing them millions of pounds worth of damage and reputational damage. So the NCSC has made it clear, cybersecurity is no longer just an IT concern, it's a boardroom priority. And that's reflected in a conversation that our CEO Barry had at a recent Gartner event, where we spoke with an IT director of a global bank who re-emphasized, based on the recent cyber attacks, if he continues doing the same things the same way he has for the last 10, 20 years, it's going to get the same outcome. And he's going to be potentially the next big news story. So, before I hand you over to Barry, who are Droplet and what do we do? What makes us different from our competitors? So, Droplet are a UK-based software company. Our core focus is to deliver applications, but we do it in a very different, unique way to our competitors. By combining application delivery with security, we can deliver any x86 application, irrespective of age, to any 64-bit operating system. What sets us apart from our competition is the security focus that we put around application delivery. Every application we deliver meets the latest cybersecurity standards that are being set out by the National Cybersecurity Centre and the forthcoming Cyber Resilience Bill. So I'm going to pass you over to Barry now, who'll talk you through what makes Droplet different and how do we protect your mission critical assets, especially legacy debt. Barry, over to you.
Thank you, Derek. So as Derek's already highlighted out, the cyber criminals are getting smarter. They're able to do more with less in this AI generated world. And the people are always the weakest link, your credentials. They're actually then compromising them, like in Marks and Spencer's attack that led to a £300 million breach. And they're able to log in, as Derek said, not just break in. And that brings a whole new attack surface. When they're getting to these admin portals, when they're being able to lock down organizations, stopping the supply chain, bringing companies to their knees, like at Jag Land Rover, which was the biggest cyber threat, 2 billion, in reported from the BBC of the cost of that particular breach, leading to a public breakout. We can take any mission critical application. It doesn't matter what your industry is or what you need to do with that particular application. It could be needed to be offline at the edge. It could be driving a big piece of machinery in a manufacturing plant. It could be on the edge within transport and being out mobile in non-connected worlds. Droplet can exist either in the data center, out on the edge, or in the cloud. It really doesn't matter to us where we run, and we can take any x86, any mission critical application. We do it for many, many customers, and it's typically that mission critical application that you're wedded to. It may have started off life as a standard off the shelf application, like let's take Dynamics or Navision, as it was called back in the day, you took that on board as a standard product from Microsoft, but suddenly the organization and the size and the scale and your needs are such that you have to build custom built components, and you start bolting on additional parts And then the lovely guys at Microsoft see a vulnerability or a need to patch and update and upgrade that underpinning operating system that it relies on. And suddenly all of your custom built components will break, or the custom built software that was customly built for that particular part of manufacturing or healthcare or in banking. You look at the way in which healthcare has to retain data, not just for 7 years or more like in finance, but for a person's lifetime and beyond, for things like medical research in future. And so it's a very difficult world to always stay up to date, always stay protected. And you're relying on the American vendors doing the same things in the same way, all relying on identity. And we don't care what the endpoint choice is. We'll give you that choice. You can run Droplet wherever it's needed, right on the latest and greatest Windows 11 or Server 2025, the latest Linux, Mac, Chromebook, Android. We really don't care what the edge endpoint is that you wish to run Droplet on. And we don't care in the data center where it needs to run either. We can have the conversation around Azure, any hypervisor, or we actually deploy via our OEM agreements on bare metal. So you can buy an appliance from Dell, HPE, or Lenovo that will completely and utterly replace the need for any hypervisor. The way that we deploy Droplet, we can schedule the CPU. You can run multiple containers, both with end user apps and server-based applications, databases. You can put multi-tiered applications into any design that you want to dream up in any of the architectures, basically taking your use case, and we have an architecture to fit that use case. And then we don't just do a typical container job. We micro-isolate everything. You can take each individual application, each multi-tiered application, and bubble it up inside Droplet in its own encryption bubble that is micro-isolated away from the other. So in the use cases of, let's take the Jag Land Rover breach recently that came in through SAP HANA. It was a 0-day breach. So they were able to gain access into that. In the world, they were then able to deploy WebRTC to then look around what was going on in the environment. They gained identity, and they waited to the moment that they had the keys to the kingdom, were able to lock the whole organization down because they could. And remember, in these environments, they had zero trust fully enabled in these environments, but because it was identity that protects that whole piece, it's never trust until you trust in their world. It didn't matter because, as Derek said right at the beginning, they're logging in. They have the credentials. They're able to spoof your identity. They're able to go through all these checks and balances of currently deployed systems. Within a Droplet world, the micro-isolation that we do mitigates that risk so that only that layer can be attacked, and it can't then go east-west across the traffic. It has its own kernel space, its own memory space. I'll come on a little bit at the moment around its encryption space and its network. And then we take away in that space, in that application space, we give the user no admin rights. So badly written code, these legacy applications that still need to persist, can't then be used as an attack surface to elevate rights and used as a breakout. They have no admin rights in the context of the app. They can't modify it. They can't change it. They can't delete it. And the important part from the user point of view is even the admin, we do not give the ability to actually put settings in that would compromise the traditional layer that you would have through, say, a firewall, where they have to whitelist certain technologies in because they need to flow across the firewall's network. And therefore, you end up in a position where that human can make a mistake. It can whitelist the wrong port. It can whitelist the wrong IP address, forget to take something down, leave something behind. That human layer is typically the main layer, whether it's a person that's been socially engineered or whether it's an admin user that's misconfigured something. We have a story to protect both sides of that because we give them no admin rights. They are in a lockdown state. They can't go anywhere they shouldn't do, and they can't modify, change, or break out from the application. We control down as well where that application can go. So it can only see the data path that it's supposed to and nothing else, down to which databases it can talk to. We can lock that down to a given IP address on a given port and only see the access to a certain file with the storage for that particular application that it needs and nothing else. And that prevents any lateral movement. It prevents them bringing in any data that shouldn't be there. It will enable it to be in a controlled space where even if you're using on your security policy from your data side, things like SMB1 still need to be enabled because that's what the application needs to be able to talk, be able to speak to. You're having to run legacy processes like Server 2003, Server 2008, for example, and they have legacy protocols in them. The way in which we lock those down and put them in an encryption bubble means that they become secure to a modern standard in complete isolation and preventing any of those data breaches happening or gaining access to data they shouldn't. The network that we've built is our own network, and it's on a very unique space in which we're a quantum resistant algorithm we've written around a 4-key revolving cipher you see on screen. It crunches that every second, and it's a point-in-time encryption cipher. So even if harvesting of data happens for a post-quantum world where they would be able to unencrypt modern-day encryption very, very quickly, because it's set to a point in time, the data in that is then rendered useless. So we have a way to future-proof against that quantum world that we're all going to face. We can also control on the network the paths in which it can go to as well, similar to technologies that are in the market from other vendors that will enable you to micro-isolate the journey across the network. We have that same capability out of the box, not as an additional fee, but baked into the core of our product. It's there for you to use. All of these features come provided in a platform play. And because of our perimeter layer, this is where we really attack that identity piece. This is what the webinar is about. This is what makes us very, very different to our competitors, to other technologies. We own the client space, the server space, and the network space. So we don't have to make the compromises a firewall does. We don't have to whitelist things to go across our space. We can encapsulate it in a multi-tiered, multi-application world, 4 bubbles for isolation for each application group, with its back-end database, with its front-end client, with its web tier. All of those can get bundled into the same bubble of Droplet, but can't then be going anywhere else. And the perimeter defense we wrap around it never trusts, and this is where the trademark comes from, never trusts anything, regardless of even if identity has been attacked, stolen. They have access to that layer. We see everything in Droplet as an external and not a, everything is external. So we don't allow anything in. We just see it as external traffic. We will block and drop it at the edge. And in a denial policy, nothing is allowed in. And the admin can't come whitelist things in. It can't change that. And that's the big thing where we don't rely on training to protect the identity theft problem. I'm going to hand it back to Derek, who will just sum up what we've gone through today.
Thanks very much, Barry. So hopefully from what Barry's described there, you'll see what makes Droplet NeverTrust different from other zero trust and identity-based solutions. And as Barry said and alluded to, everything we've just described is inclusive in our product. You get application micro-isolation, a perimeter layer, quantum-resistant encryption. We harden that human layer to prevent elevated privileges and identity theft. And we can run any x86 mission-critical app on any modern-day platform. So hopefully you've found that beneficial and useful. And if you're interested in any way of what we can actually achieve, please reach out to us, info@droplet.world, or visit our website, dropletnevertrust.com. Thanks very much for taking the time out today, and I look forward to catching up on our next webcast, which will be advertised on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.